Let's jump right in. Today, we're unpacking a seriously stark, hyper-minimalist piece of literature. When we usually think about analyzing a text, we picture these dense, heavy paragraphs, massive character arcs, chapters upon chapters. But what happens when the creator just strips all of that away? When a text refuses to hold your hand and instead hands you this profound emptiness? In this explainer, we're taking a deep, meditative dive into a work titled The Ink of Night. We'll look at how space, absence, and a mind-blowing economy of language can honestly speak way louder than a 1,000-page novel. Now, it is actually staggering to realize that this single word right here represents the absolute entirety of our source text excerpt. Just take a look. Black. That's it. There's no protagonist, no flowery setting, no dialogue, just one solitary syllable. As readers, we're basically hardwired to look for the next word, right? We want that context to tell us how we should feel. But here, we are completely denied that luxury. The author drops this incredibly heavy, absolute concept right in our laps, and then they just step back into the shadows. So to really wrap our heads around this, we have to treat this solitary word almost like a priceless artifact on a pedestal in a museum. And sure, overanalyzing one single word might sound a bit absurd at first, but imagine walking into a massive, stark white, totally empty art gallery, and right in the center of the room is just one smooth, dark stone. Your eye has literally nowhere else to go. The sheer emptiness forces you to zero in on every microscopic detail of that stone. And that's exactly what's happening here. By giving us almost nothing, the text forces us to bring everything we have to the table. This minimalism, it's not a lack of effort. It's a super deliberate, calculated design choice to focus your attention like a laser beam. Which makes us pause and ask, what actually happens to our minds when we're stripped of all that comforting context and narrative? Human beings are basically meaning-making machines. When we see a single word isolated like this, our brains immediately start scrambling, almost panicking, really, to build scaffolding around it. We search our memories, our emotions, our associations. This single word becomes a mirror. If you're feeling melancholic, it might feel like a deep, heavy sorrow. If you're at peace, it could feel like a quiet, restful sleep. The text isn't telling you what to think. It's practically daring you to see your own reflection in its surface. Let's look at the title of the work itself, which frames the solitary word we just saw. The title is The Ink of Night. And, a title is really a doorway into a piece of art. It sets the rules of engagement before you've even read a single line. By calling this The Ink of Night, the author hits us right away with two incredibly powerful evocative nouns. We've got ink, which is this tangible human tool of creation, and night, this massive, intangible, cosmic state of nature. These two forces are smashed together to prep us for the single word that follows. Let's break those components down, starting with ink. By definition, ink is a colored fluid used for writing, drawing, printing. You get the idea. The crucial takeaway here is that literal ink is a fluid medium of creation. It's used deliberately by human hands to define boundaries on a blank page. Think about what happens when you write. You're taking this empty, undefined white space, and you're using ink to carve your meaning into it. Ink builds borders. It makes the invisible visible. It's essentially an act of asserting control over a void. But then we flip to the second half of the title, night. The definition being that period of darkness in each 24 hours from sunset to sunrise. Now, in stark contrast to ink, the night represents a natural, enveloping darkness that obscures the visual world rather than defining it. Where ink creates borders, the night completely erases them. When you step outside into a pitch-black night, the boundaries between, say, a tree, a mountain, and the sky, they just dissolve into one unified shadow. It's this overwhelming, uncontrollable force that absorbs everything right into itself. Which brings us to a really fascinating question. How on earth does the vastness of the night function as the fluid used to write this piece? It's this beautiful, almost dizzying paradox. If ink is meant to make things visible, but the night makes things invisible, what does it actually mean to write with the night? Well, it suggests the author is using darkness, silence, and absence as their primary tools of communication. They aren't trying to draw a picture for you to see. They're plunging you into darkness so you're forced to just feel your way around the text. Once you realize the author is writing with the ink of night, that single word black suddenly carries the weight of a collapsing star. I mean, it isn't just a color swatch in a hardware store. It's the culmination of that immense, boundary-erasing darkness. The sheer brevity of the text makes the word impossibly dense. It's like every single thing the author wanted to say has been compressed, refined, and totally crushed down into these 5 letters. It's a gorgeous little tug-of-war we're seeing. The author takes the ultimate tool of erasure, the night, and tries to use it as a tool of definition, like ink. And the result of that totally impossible collision? The word black. It's a word that sits there on the page loudly asserting its presence while at the exact same time representing the ultimate absence of all visual information. It's brilliant.
So we have to ask ourselves, is the author presenting us with a heavy, saturated totality or a complete and total void? Think about it. If you mix every single color of ink together, what do you get? A heavy, muddy black. It's the presence of literally everything at once. But if you turn off every single light source in the universe, you also get black, the absolute purest form of absence. So is this single word excerpt a shout containing every emotion at once, or is it a deafening, terrifying silence? The true genius of the work is that it absolutely refuses to tell you which one it is.
Now, strictly defined, black is the complete absorption of light. And this perfectly mirrors the physical absence of surrounding text in our excerpt. Just as the color black swallows all the light that hits it, this single word just swallows all the surrounding white space on the page. That empty space around the word black, it's not just blank paper. It is a crucial part of the composition. The silence around the word is doing just as much heavy lifting as the letters themselves, forcing our focus entirely onto this one, singular, light-absorbing point. So let's look at the layers we're left with here. We've got a title setting this incredibly dark stage. We have a single word acting as a visual void, and we have this extreme structural brevity that forces us to do the heavy lifting. This isn't passive reading, guys. You can't just kick back and let a story wash over you here. The text demands your active participation. You are required to step into that darkness and assemble the meaning entirely yourself.
And ultimately, this hyper-minimalist approach transforms the dark text into this totally open, boundless canvas. By giving us almost nothing, the author has actually handed us everything. Think about it. If they had written a 50-page story about a dark night, we'd be boxed in by their specific characters and their specific plot. But by just giving us black, the text becomes infinite. It can be about grief, the origins of the universe, blindness, or even just the relief of closing your eyes after a long day. It is literally whatever you need it to be in this exact moment.
Let's sit for a moment with the title once more. The Ink of Night. Just let the concept of this dark, atmospheric medium wash over you. It's such a potent reminder that even in the darkest, most obscure moments of our lives, or in the most minimal pieces of art, there is a medium being used to write our experience. There is a really profound beauty in the dark, you know? A real beauty in the things that are left unsaid, undefined, and completely obscured. And then we return to the excerpt itself, a solitary absolute that demands our totally undivided attention. It's completely unapologetic, it doesn't ask for your permission, and it certainly doesn't offer an apology for its brevity. It just exists. In a way, it challenges our modern obsession with constant noise, constant information, and that endless doom scrolling we all do. It throws up a stop sign and forces a moment of absolute, undivided presence. So I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought to carry with you today. When an author gives you absolutely nothing but darkness, what is it that you see within it? Because ultimately, whatever you find hiding in the ink of this night says a whole lot more about you than it does about the text itself. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep that question in the back of your mind today. Take care and keep exploring.